Hi everyone, welcome to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be tying the fly you can see in the vise. So it's a variation of the standard cruncher with instead of a peacock herl thorax, it's got a hot orange thorax covered in ice blue pearl tinsel. Now the way this fly came about is that after observing many buzzers hatching, I noticed that there was at the point of their hatching, there was a flush of orange where they pumped hemoglobin into their wings prior to popping out their shuck. And I thought, well, maybe there's something in that. So I initially tied them with undyed cock pheasant centre tail, and latterly with black or dyed black cock pheasant centre tail. This pattern has stood the test of time as far as I'm concerned, and it's caught me hundreds of fish. As I mentioned, the point of occlusion, when the buzzers were hatching, so that gives you an indication of where this fly should be fished as well. So generally I'll fish it on a floating line with a washing line setup. I might even fish it on a midge tip or even a slow tip, but generally it's fished in the upper layers, and that seems to be the best fit for this fly. So there's a bit of background to it, and as ever, before I get into tying the fly, I'll just run through the tying materials. So the hook size is 10, 12 and 14. I'll do it on a size 10 today, and if you want you can use a finer wire hook. Today I'm using a Camsam B175. It still stays in the same area if I'm using the washing line method, because I've got a buoyant point fly to keep those flies in the area I need them. So that's the hook. The tail is Blackcock Hackle Fibres. The body in this instance is dyed black cock pheasant centre tail, and that's ribbed with silver wire. The thorax then is Globrite No7, covered in medium ice blue pearl tinsel. Simple enough, the hackle is a black hen or a black cock depending on what you want, and the head is black tying silk. So later on in the video what I'll do is I'll show you a couple of variations, or a couple of other variations that I have in my box, just in case anyway. So tying silk is black in 70 denier, and all we need to do is just use the jam knot to lock the thread and take it down to a point between the hook point and the bend. There you go. Take off the waste there. And if I can pick it up, take several fibres from a cock hackle, and once again I don't like my tails too long, so just beyond the bend is sufficient, but it's your fly, you tie it how you want. And then we'll take that up. I'm just going to remove some of the waste at the tips. Okay, and then just wind that all the way back up to the tying point. Then if we get some silver wire, what we can do is we can just pass that under the tying silk and pull it into place, and wind that back down. And just before we get to the point where the tail is tied in, we're going to take three strands of cock pheasant centre tail dyed black and tie those in by the tips. Get that out of the way. So and then take that in, down to the tying point and return your silk back up to where you tied off. Now, depending on the length of the pheasant tail fibres, it could take you 7 or 8 turns. It may even take you up to 11 turns, but needless to say, just wrap those cock pheasant centre tail fibres to a point where you think, well, that's what I want my thorax. So in this case it's here for me, and take off the waist. Right, because we've wound the cock pheasant centre tail fibres on clockwise, I'm now going to counter rib with the silver wire. So 6 or 7 turns. That one wasn't quite right. There we go. And then just secure that. And helicopter it off. So next thing we need is some medium ice blue pearl, and it's got a kind of blue, kind of UV tinge to it, and just take that in. Get some Globrite No7, and with the Globrite No7 I'm going to pass it under but pull it forward. So, because what we're going to do with this is we're going to wrap it down and back up. Okay, so do that, and then form your thorax in nice touching turns on the way down, and then touching turns on the way back up. And one more, and then tie it in. Okay, so before I wrap the tinsel on, all I'm going to do is just put the smallest amount of super glue on top of that thorax, because otherwise it'll have a tendency to unravel, and you don't want that happening. So just take a turn, close touching turns, and hopefully you can see, I can see it here, you can see that that blue tinge is actually giving the thorax a little bit of a tint to it. So once that's done, take off the waist there, and then choose a suitable hackle. There we go. Just lock that in there with a couple more turns, and then remove that waist. So, as I was saying, if we take the hackle under tension and stroke those fibres backwards, we can double the hackle. So take 1 or 2 turns. It all depends on how heavy you want the fly to be. So there's 1 full turn. I'm going to just do 2 full turns there. Okay, so there's the second turn. Bring your tying silk upwards to lock that hackle in, and then a second one to lock it in. Remove the waist, and then just tidy up. Pull those fibres backwards, couple of turns just to tidy it up, and then whip finish to form a nice head there. Okay, so a little bit of varnish now just to seal those fibres, or seal the tie-in silk on the head. And as I rotate, you can probably see the effect on that thorax. So it's nice and blue with a hint of orange, or orange with a hint of blue, and there we have it. That is the orange thorax cruncher. So, well, as I said earlier in the video, I'd show you some other variations that I have in my box. So if I remove this one, and hopefully I won't have to yeah, I'll zoom out slightly, you can probably see better then. So as you can see here, this is the one that we've already or just tied. So it's a standard black cruncher with the Globrite No7 for the thorax with blue pearl over the top. This one's tied with natural cock pheasant centre tail, but other than that it's the same. It's got a furnace hackle at the front with red game fibres for the tail. Now I'm not sure whether you can see this one, but it's got a fine blue pearl rib. It's very similar to a Nemo, but it's not a Nemo, if you understand. And this came about by happenstance, really, because I failed to secure the wraps of the blue pearl around the thorax covering, and as I fished it, those wraps sort of spread out across the body. So, like I say, happenstance really. And this one is the same fly with just natural cock pheasant centre tail, and then latterly I've started using a more obvious ribbing material, which is Opal Mirage in fine. Now Opal Mirage, although it's translucent, it is too thick to put over the thorax, so the thorax is left just as orange. Okay, so by the way, if you want me to tie any of these in a separate video, just let me know in the comments, look. And yeah, I'll gladly do it. But hopefully, from what I've shown you and explained, you can see those variations in all their glory anyway. Okay, so coming back to the fly we just dressed. And I'll just zoom back in on that one. There you go. So, a super effective fly, especially when fishing in the upper layers, and I suspect it's to do with the hot orange thorax, because that's what happens when buzzers are just about to hatch, and I think it is an attractive target point. If you decide to tie the fly, let me know how you get on. Anyway, with that, I'll leave it there and just say thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers then.